money is such a juicy subject. I work with women and I am an inner abundance coach. And when you hear abundance, you think about cars, houses, all of the above. And very rarely you stop and think that the abundance starts within. It's not just how you perceive money and what is the source of that perception, but the relationship that we actually have with money. And I truly believe that the relationship you have with money, the relationship you have with safety. And when you pause about that, when you really ponder about that, you start realizing where your choices are going and why you're making those choices. For many years, at least, I didn't understand what was my relationship with money. I mean, I was fortunate to grow up very comfortable, so I didn't see that kind of scarcity in my home.
You do have to understand them, right? Like because the math is the math, right? Like how we handle mortgage, how we handle figuring out risk factors for property and casualty insurance and all these different things. I mean, that's not going to change, right? Like the mechanics are not going to change, but how that affects and intersects your life will change greatly once you step back and start stripping yourself bare and asking yourself hard questions and finding out how that interrelationship with money is affecting everything else. Because you can be book smart, right? You can have all of those answers, but if you don't have the other piece, like, are you really going to succeed at the level you want to? And truly the answer is no. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline or Jax Crider. Today we have Miss Claudia on. She is an amazing she has a podcast, she wrote a book, she's a coach, all these things. Her business is called Brighter Days, and I was on her podcast as a guest. I'm super excited to have her. So Claudia, tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you're excited to be on the podcast today.
Hi, Jax. I'm so excited to be here. We had to push the recording button because, if not, we were going to be chatting for 3 hours and a half. I'm super happy to be here because I think that money is such a juicy subject. I work with women and I am an inner abundance coach. And when you hear abundance, you think about cars, houses, trips, all of the above. And very rarely you stop and think that the abundance starts within. It's not just how you perceive money and what is the source of that perception, but the relationship that we actually have with money. And I truly believe that the relationship you have with money, the relationship you have with safety. And when you pause about that, when you really ponder about that, you start realizing where your choices are going and why you're making those choices.
Yes, you are so right. And it's funny because, as a practical matter, my entire career has been spent on the more traditional money side, right? So, mortgage, I worked as like property and casualty insurance. So I did like a lot of practical type things there. I've sold life insurance, like all these very practical, like understanding the back end of money. And I don't think it was until a few years back that I really understood how important abundance and stripping scarcity mentality out of your vocabulary and sort of reprogramming your entire body, your mind, your relationship with money really was more the key to success than even understanding the fundamentals. Because you do have to understand them, right? Like because the math is the math, right? Like how we handle mortgage, how we handle figuring out risk factors for property and casualty insurance and all these different things. I mean, that's not going to change, right? Like the mechanics are not going to change, but how that affects and intersects your life will change greatly once you step back and start stripping yourself bare and asking yourself hard questions and finding out how that interrelationship with money is affecting everything else. Because you can be book smart, right? You can have all of those answers, but if you don't have the other piece, like, are you really going to succeed at the level you want to? And truly the answer is no.
No, absolutely not. And a lot of us, for many years, at least I didn't understand what was my relationship with money. I mean, I was fortunate to grow up very comfortable, so I didn't see that kind of scarcity in my home. But also, I have gone through moments in my life when I was a single mom, when I had to have 3 jobs, when I had to figure out how I was going to feed my kids. And those stories come back And then I give my own interpretation to those stories. So I'm just not good with money. It's a story that I used to tell myself. And I became good with money, in quotes, when I had savings. So now I'm good with money because I have that stash of money. But what does that mean? When I was saying before, your relationship with safety, you don't get too comfortable, don't expect consistency, or don't rely on abundance, because the same as money, safety is not linear, right? You're going to
Correct.
feel safe one moment, you're not going to feel safe in another moment. So when I started realizing, okay, wait a minute, what are the conversations I am having with myself about money, about safety, and about relationships? Because also you got to trust in any relationship with your boss, with your partner, with your kids, you got to have trust. And if you don't trust yourself to create that abundance, no matter how much you work, that abundance is not going to be available for you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and I think also as a society, we aren't having those conversations about our relationships with money, how we trust ourselves with money and things like that. What we're taught is that the end all is hey, you go and you go to college and you get the best and baddest degree and career that you can have because that's going to
Mhm.
lend you the most money, right? Like as in like how much you're going to bring in on an annual basis. And so
Mhm.
therefore you will be good with money, okay? And I can tell you from the job that I do every single day that that is categorically not true because we see people like doctors and lawyers and people who make a lot of money or society believes makes all of this money and they are not good with money, right? And a lot of it comes from their misbelief that they can't be good with money. And so they're making all this money. So it's not that they don't have the tools to be financially successful on paper, but the
Right.
reason that they're not has nothing to do with the amount of money they're actually yielding, right? Every single month, every single year. Like that has nothing to do with it. And I know that a lot of that comes from an experience that I dealt with when I was in law school. So it was sort of a joke. I started going to night law school and I still was working my mortgage job while I was going to night law school. And I don't remember when it was, but a couple of the people in my class found out that I worked in mortgage for a living. And somebody came up to me and they said, You work in mortgage for a living?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Why are you going to law school? Lawyers aren't good at math." And I was like, "Why can't lawyers be good at math? Like, what a ridiculous idea, right?" Like, there are some lawyers that are good at math. Maybe it's not every single person's strong suit, but to me, a lot of people tie math and money together, right? Like the two are hand in hand. And in some ways, again, from a purely logistical, practical perspective, it kind of is math and money do correlate a whole bunch. But there is
Mhm.
that idea that is percolating and perpetuating in their mind of like, oh, well, I'm a doctor because I'm not good at math. I'm a lawyer because I'm not good at math. And so that again is going back down into that relationship. And so this is again translating into I'm not good with money.
I think two things I want to bring for what you're saying. Making money is not the same as holding the money. There's a
Correct.
lot of people that make a lot of money and they never have money.
That's correct.
Okay. And the second component is your worthiness. Like I remember clearly when I was a single mom, I was working in a high rise and I was a chef concierge. So I handle a lot of residents, very, very wealthy people. So I could see firsthand how these people deal with the money. Some of them needed to have the big car and the big jewelry and the big this and the big that because they wanted to show the world how much money they had. And then they have a couple of units that had people that were so frugal and they had so much, but they were holding on to that money like if their life depended on it. And one time, one of the residents that used to have a condo here and another one in Chicago called me and asked me if I could work independently for him, aside of the job that I have. And for me, it was great because the kids will go the weekend with their dad. So it was like, awesome, I can manage your property, no problem. So he says to me, how much do you want to make? And I said, oh, I don't know. I mean, how much are you paying? That was my first lesson of money. And I was very young. And he says to me, listen, you always gotta know ahead of time how much do you want. And you always have to be aware that if you ask too much, you take an advantage. But if you ask too little, you're telling the person that you're not worthy.
That's correct.
So that for me was like 3 years ago. I still remember his words. And even when I asked for my coaching, yeah, if I ask $50, I can have, 15 clients. But what that says about me to myself,
Right.
not about me to the rest of the coaches, about me to myself. Because I'm putting a price tag to my knowledge, to what I'm bringing to the table. And if I don't value myself, which is totally different, I said it in my book. I said, you stop giving discount when you know your value. That's the day you say, I'm not giving you more discounts because I know what I'm bringing here. So the worthiness is so important when it comes to money.
Well, and I love that you're bringing up the concept of worthiness because literally I was making a post earlier today and I was talking a little bit about outsourcing our power and why do we do that, right? Why do we outsource our power to others? And I'm not talking about okay, you go on social media to get some perspective, right? Or you're doing some research and so you're asking questions of others because there's absolutely nothing wrong with that concept, right? We oftentimes need somebody in a different state or stage of life than we're in to give us
Right,
some a perspective, some ideas or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that we have started feeling so unworthy of our own truth, of our own self, of our own everything, that we are literally going out into social media, into our families, our friends, or whoever, and we're literally letting them make life altering decisions for us because we don't feel worthy to make these decisions on our own. Right? About
right,
everything. I mean, I actually get in big trouble in my space and mortgage because we do not believe that we should make the choice. What I believe fundamentally is our goal in the mortgage space is this: you should come to me. You should follow the steps that we lay out for you to be able to get so we can get you good information. You need to answer our questions so we can understand where you're at. And then we're going to give you some choices and even maybe tell you what we feel like might be the best choice for you. But ultimately, I will never be making the call for you. I will never be telling you, Claudia, this is a loan you should take. You have to take this loan because it's not my choice, right? I want to hand the power back to you and say, okay, based on all the information that we gave you, based on all of the things that you now know, what do you want to pick? And a lot of people in my space feel like, well, we should just tell them what to do. No, I disagree, right? Like, you should not be outsourcing your power, especially with big financial decisions, especially with money. Right. And I get it. It's hard. There's a lot of freaking noise and there's a lot of things that make you feel unworthy. I hadn't posted about it, but I was thinking the other day about, if you stroll back like 100 years ago, right? There was a few main things that like were your responsibility that you had to make sure got done and accomplished. And then you could have really great self-worth, right? Like if you were a woman that was likely, keeping care of your home, making sure your children were, kind of in the right direction or whatever, these kind of things, whatever. Think about right
hmm
now. There's like a jillion things that we have to keep going on, balls in the air. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to feel unworthy.
yeah. And also, let me tag to what you just said. We create the evidence in our brain. So
100%.
sometimes we feel the pressure, or we feel the conditioning, or we feel, the domestication of years of being certain way. And we say yes to them and no to us. And when we do that, we are creating evidence in our brain that we are not capable to make the right decision, the decision that is going to serve us. And that is going to influence your next decision because your brain in the back files has enough evidence that you are not capable to make that choice.
Correct.
And if you make that choice, it's going to be the wrong choice. So even when you are making the choice, you're doubting yourself.
Well, and People really don't give enough, they don't step into enough the fact that really smart, really intelligent people, they're their own worst enemy because your brain is a super, super powerful thing. And it's part of the reason that I started the podcast to begin with is number one, I knew that I had a lot of really good information, like mechanically, right? Like to be able to provide people practical information, advice, things like that. And I do want to provide things like that. So I do episodes, a lot of times giving some of those pieces of advice. But a lot of people don't understand that literally the power relies in them. No matter where you came from, no matter what education you have, and now more than ever before, I mean, we literally have the world as our oyster. Right? I mean, I was on the phone with my parents last night. And so I recently vibe coded this app that I'm going to launch here in the next week or two called dailydough.net, like dough, like DOUGH.net. And what it is an app that allows people to kind of have a daily number that they're able to spend guilt free. They enter in some information. And so then they're not having to look at their bank accounts and budgeting and all this other crap. It's like, here's a simple thing. You can look at it and whatever, right? I had an idea. With the power of AI and vibe coding, created this whole thing, launched it. Do I know how to code? I certainly do not. Am I technical enough to launch something like that by myself? Nope. But guess what? We're living in an era where anything is possible. You just have to be willing to take the step forward, to believe that you can do it and believe in yourself. And for me, my mission and my passion is so big, I can't not try. Right? Like, what's the literal worst thing that can happen is I launched this thing. I spent a couple, 3, 4 hours of time developing it or whatever and testing it out, and then it flops. I
Exactly.
mean, does
You're
it,
gonna be in this.
does not, it's
That's
not a
fine.
bad thing. It doesn't say anything bad about me.
Right. But I think that it comes down to giving yourself permission. You gave yourself permission to go after something. Abundance is permission, not hustling. So when you give yourself permission to be that person, because I always say this, and I'm sure you have heard me say it before, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So when you give yourself permission to be that person that is going to attract everything that is available for you, you stop chasing, you stop hustling, you stop begging, you stop worry about how many people like your post. You are in your essence, you're in your energy, and money is energy. So you are going to attract it. You're not going to be chasing it. And I know that it sounds pretty and it sounds easy, but I promise you, when you are in that flow, in that energy, it just happens. It just happens.
Well, and I think that's the other lie we bought into is that it has to be hard work. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've heard that as children so often, right? Like you have to do a good job, you have to do hard work. And so we
Yeah.
convince ourselves that it has to be hard. And if it's easy, right? If it's something that we can just take a few steps forward and that's it, then there's something wrong here and this can't be the path or whatever, right? But like you said, when you are in flow, when you are trusting yourself, when you are tapping it or whatever, I say that truthfully, the hard work is continuing to push yourself down the path, to not let your own mind get in the way and tell yourself a bunch of stories about how you can't do it, you're not worthy. Oh, see, this last failure was evidence that you can't accomplish this next thing, whatever it is, right? Blah, 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 blah. I think
It's going to bring
truthfully,
you backwards. Like, this is evidence that I am capable. This is evidence that I don't stop in the problem. This is evidence that when I find trouble in the middle, I can keep moving forward. So what is it that you are holding on to, and what part of having money feels unsafe? What is stopping you? Because one thing is feeling fear and scarcity, and another thing is not feeling safe. And a lot of people, because of what you just said, all this concept that we have, money is hard, doesn't grow on trees, people change, people that has money are whatever, exactly. You just feel that you are not going to be safe, and you want to be safe, so you're not going there. You're not going to get curious, you're not going to pursue anything. You're going to settle and be comfortable, and I have enough until enough is not enough.
yeah. Well, and let's talk for a second. So, I recently launched a program called Financial Instincts Framework. And basically, in essence, what the idea behind it is to really come up with two different things. One, what are your natural money instincts, right? Like, what are you naturally good at when it comes to money? And then what is
Mhm.
holding you back? Like, what is blocking you? And a lot of times, what people don't realize is that we're creating a lot of these stories really, really young. Okay. And there's two reasons that I want to address this is first of all, you have to reprogram all of that, right? Like all of this crap that is coming up from when you were young and when you were a child and whatever, right? And then twofold, if you happen to be a parent listening and you have these children that are in these pivotal years, what you are representing, what you are showing them about money, you are actually creating that pattern that will live inside of them right from here
Mhm.
on out. And so the whether they allow themselves to be worthy or not with money, right, whether they trust themselves, whether they find safety or scarcity in money, all of these things, like this is happening as we speak. And so we have a lot of power, not only power to give ourselves permission to step out of this nonsense and reprogram it, but also permission to walk away and like help our children, right, come out of it. I think about this often because I have a 4-year-old, right? And I think to myself, how am I shaping her financial future right now, not dollars and
Mhm.
cents wise on what I'm putting in the bank that may or may not help her, but actually with the mentality and what I am teaching her about money, because it will shape forever the way that she feels and the way that she thinks. And so we have to work hard to rewire all of that. So in my mind, that's the hard work, right? The hard work is not the earning of the money or finding it or accumulating it. And money is not on a break or a diet or a shortage or any of that. Like none of that is happening. So there's plenty of it. That's not your problem, right? Your problem is you, truthfully. Like, and I used to think that was ridiculous, but it's true. It is. The problem is
Yeah.
you.
Well, for the parents that are listening, ask yourself, what does money represent emotionally in your home?
Correct.
Sometimes we don't pay attention to that. You don't want to use the word hard because we are wired that hard is difficult, blah, 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 blah. Then replace it. Intentional. Money, when it comes to money, let's be intentional.
Correct.
Whatever other word that works best for you so you don't find that block. But who would you become if money stop being unsafe? Who would you be if you would be in flow? What part feels more aligned when you talk about money? Like ask questions, get curious, and then ask them too. What's money for you? I remember when my kids were teenagers and they started working, I told them, you pay something so you feel that you're part of it. Not that you have to pay a bill, but pay something, whatever it is, your gas, whatever it is, pay something. So you have three piles. The pile that is your responsibility that you have to pay for, right? The fund money and your savings. How you divide it, how big of a slice it is going to be, is entirely up to you. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. But at the end of the month, make sure that each pile gets a little. Of course, the responsibility has to pay off, right? Because that's your responsibility. But the other two, the fund money and the save money, is up to you because nothing is forever. You don't know if you're going to have a job next month. So, what a peace of mind to know that if you don't have the job, you still can be okay. And also that you don't have to stay in that job because you don't have a choice. That
Correct.
is that's a horrible place to be. And a lot of people in the world are in those places because, again, they hold on to the money. They don't invest it. They don't save some portion of it. They get a lot. They spend more than, that what they supposed to because they want to impress, I don't know, the neighbor or whatever. The Jones, I guess they say it.
Keeping up with the
I don't
Joneses.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Welcome to Financial Mastery Simplified, your go-to podcast for making smart money decisions. We break down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand advice you can use every day. Our experts cover everything from budgeting and saving to investing and retirement planning. We give you the tools to take control of your money and build the future you want. With Financial Mastery Simplified, you'll feel informed and empowered to make the best choices for your financial health. Tune in to Financial Mastery Simplified on your favorite podcast platform. Start your journey to financial confidence today.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Welcome to House U, where we believe in the power of education. At House U, we're more than just a brand. We're your partner in home ownership, dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering you every step of the way. Education is at the heart of everything we do. We offer comprehensive resources designed to make home ownership simple and accessible for all. From understanding mortgage options to mastering home maintenance, House U provides the knowledge you need to make informed decisions with confidence. We host workshops and seminars, bringing together experts and community members to share insights and build a stronger, more informed community. Because when you're educated, you're empowered. House U, home ownership made simple for all. Visit our website or contact us today to start your journey with House U. Empower yourself with knowledge and embrace the joy of home ownership.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to our conversation.
So now ask the questions to yourself and to your kids, because also the kids are getting a lot of information from social media, from other parents, from other kids in school. So you want to make sure that your kids are getting the right information, or at least the information that is aligned with what you want for them.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say a lot of this because, yes, I agree with you. So we had a rule in my household, and this was started by my mom, and you had to pay for half of your first car. My mom, it had nothing to do with the fact that my parents couldn't afford to buy a car or whatever. My mom wanted us to have skin in the game. She wanted us to understand what it was like
Mhm.
to own and whatever. And I think sometimes as parents, we avoid some of these conversations about money, about talking to our kids about it, about framing it up, et cetera, because we feel like we don't know what we're talking about. We're not good with money, but you have to remind yourself, no matter how good or bad you feel like you are with money, you are 10 times better than your child, right? Like you got 10 times more information, experience, all the things with money, et cetera. And maybe it's also an opportunity for you to show your child that it's okay that you don't know everything, but you're going to take the path together, right? You're going to learn things together. How does it work? What makes the etc. And I think that intellectual curiosity is literally the superpower that people never tap. I wrote a book that will release sometime in spring called Ask the Question, and it's literally
Okay.
about the power of intellectual curiosity, that we have killed off the most valuable part of ourselves somewhere in childhood, probably early adulthood, when people keep basically shutting us up. And the best thing you can do for yourself is be curious, ask questions. And the best thing in the world right now is used to, you might would have felt shame, right? Like coming to a professional and laying yourself bare that you're ignorant or you don't understand how these things work. And maybe they're going to tell you you're stupid, which, by the way, any really good professional is never going to tell you that. They don't feel that way. Okay. Just so we're clear. But I get it. It's still a fear that you're holding in your head. But guess what? You can at least still get some basic pieces of information with Google
Mhm.
searches, with AI, doing a little bit of research, right? Like, so you have so many opportunities and things right at your fingertip that can help you with this process. You just have to be curious. You have to be willing to lean in. You have to be willing to do some of the not the work necessarily, but just like the exploration, right? Of kind of walking
Right.
down this path. And I love that you also talked about intentionality, because it is something that I talk about all the time. You are not always going to make the right choice. You're not.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how much information you have. It doesn't matter how good you are with money or bad. It doesn't matter how long you've been on the planet or whatever, because life is going to life, whether you like it or not. You have to just be making aligned, intentional choices. That's it. As long as you're
Yeah.
doing that part, the rest is outside of your control. Okay. Like, trust me when I say that I know this better than anybody, because my husband and I made aligned, intentional choices. And guess what happened? Our house flooded. We didn't
True.
do it. Somebody else
Mhm.
did it. It then created
Yeah.
a whole financial drama within our household and everything or whatever, and flipped the world upside down. But do you know why my husband and I did not crumble as a couple and or individually? Because trust me when I say it's definitely called into question my worthiness, if I'm really making the best decisions, how do I move forward
It's
in life?
time, right?
Right. I mean, you're like, holy mother of God, holy shit, like what the heck? But you know what? We made an aligned intentional choice. And so the outcome of the choice, while not ideal, I didn't have control over that. There were outside factors. And so people are beating themselves up so frequently with money about stuff that is outside of their control. You didn't get to
Yeah.
decide that your job laid you off. You didn't get to decide that AI came into the picture and is now reshaping everything about the industry that you're working in. You didn't get to decide that your partner of all these years passed away unexpectedly, or maybe expectedly, and they dealt with a long battle with disease and it just ravaged your finances. Like, none of this was in your control.
Right. Right. I have a friend who just called me last week. I'm sorry. She was rear-ended. She just finished paying her car. She just finished paying her car. She was rear-ended, and the kid that rear-ended her didn't have a license,
Probably no
and the car
insurance.
didn't have. Exactly. So who's gonna take care of that? Herself.
Mhm.
And she was like going nuts about it. Totally understandable.
Yeah,
But then also,
total normal response.
you didn't have any control. You're human. This is a normal reaction. But you have to be ready for those failing moments in your life because they're gonna happen. It could happen by everything that you said, or it can happen by everything going right and you not getting that job,
Correct.
right? So it happened. So what are your choices? Are you going to dwell and feel bad and give yourself more evidence that you're not enough, you're not good, you're not capable, blah, blah, blah? Or you're going to say, what can I rescue out of this experience? Let's keep moving forward because the vision that I have for me still the same. How am I going to get there? Maybe it's not going to be the same as yesterday, but I'm going to get there and I'm going to figure it out. That's the attitude that makes the person that lives in abundance opposite to the person that lives in scarcity.
Well, and then also the attitude of gratefulness. Like,
100.
this situation and this scenario has been literally probably the most earth-shattering, financially crazy town situation of my entire life. In fact, most people you've ever heard of's lives. Like, when I tell the story to a lot of people, they're like, holy crap, that's the worst real estate story I've ever heard, right? Like, when people look at the gravity of all of the things, and if I tell them the full story of like all the things that happened, like right beforehand, like, getting this company deciding to lay us off or whatever, my daughter coming 8 weeks, 2 days early, miscarrying, like all these crazy things, right? That also created all this stuff before the crazy
Right.
financial situation or whatever, right? You'd be like, holy crap. The only thing that has held my head above water is gratefulness. Because the truth is that the house that I live in, most people can't even fathom it. They can't even dream big enough, expand their capacity great enough, right? To be able to even put that in their purview. And I have had the privilege of owning it for over 4 years, right? Not
Mm,
many people could even say that. And so I am grateful for that opportunity, even though it has
right.
created extreme harm, right? I mean, your friend in her example, right? She owns
Hmm.
a car. That is
Right.
only a very small percentage of the population in the entire world have the privilege of even getting to own a car, right? But so frequently we're caught up because, oh my gosh, so and so down the block has a nicer car than me, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, whatever crap we're like spewing and telling ourselves. And I'm like, man, like, you got to step back and like look at all the amazing things like surrounding you, right? Like, did you wake up and turn on the light switch? I told this story not long ago, and every time I tell it, it cracks me up. So for a while, we had this group of housekeepers, and they were three sisters. And the three sisters, they were originally from Mexico. They were all born there. But the oldest, I think, was to the States, and she must have been late teens, early 20s, something like that when she came. And the other
Right.
two, one was really little. She was like 6 or 7. And then the middle sister was kind of middle of the road there, right? Like 12, 13, something like this.
Mhm.
And we were in the house one day, and the littler sister, she's obviously not little anymore, she's like in her 20s, but she was complaining about something. And the older sister said to me, she's so ungrateful. She doesn't understand how good we have it. We have running water, we have electricity. And when she said it, it sort of like stopped me in my tracks. Because what
Right.
she was really saying is the perspective of the fact that, like, she remembers what it was like growing up without running water, electricity, plumbing, any of these things. And so
Right.
these things that literally, right, like you just got up from your desk and like
Take for
went to the
granted.
bathroom and flushed the toilet, washed your hands and came back to your desk, like you take for granted.
Right. Right. And we flush the toilet 3, 4 times
Yeah,
because, oh, we forgot to throw that tissue. And we forgot this and we forgot that. And we don't realize that there are houses that don't have water, or
correct.
they don't have a toilet, or they don't have floor, you know? I mean, gratitude is probably one of the main ingredients of me becoming who I am in the toughest moments of my life,
1,000%.
because I forced myself to look into the situation and rescue what I could take. And then I have gratitude for that new version of myself that now has evidence of me being able to overcome that situation. You are not the same, and your husband is not the same before you face this.
Correct.
So that is not only the gratitude for the things that we have, but the gratitude for who we are becoming in the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's just so important. I mean, it's just like I believe that every interaction that you have with other humans, you figure out what good you can take from that, what
Hmm.
you need to leave at the door, and like what you need to basically disregard or whatever. But every single interaction that you come across is an opportunity for you to learn something about yourself, something about people, something, right? And we so often don't take that into account, right? Because we're cataloging information. Our brains, you may not be aware of it, but your subconscious is 1,000%, loading all of these things up.
He's taking notes.
Well, it's
Yes.
taking notes, all right, baby. And I talk about a lot the RAS, right? The reticular activating system. This is the system in your brain that really allows you to look for things, and you tell it what to look for. So when you are
Yeah.
looking for gratitude, when you're looking for abundance, when you're looking for the positive in the situation, right? When you're looking for that, that is what your brain is going to look for more of.
But you train it, Jax.
You
It's like we were talking in when you, I think when you were on my podcast about the red car. If I tell you how many red cars you saw today, you're gonna tell me, I don't know, 1, 2. But if I ask you again tomorrow, you're gonna say, I saw 16, because you actually intentionally are looking for the red cars. And that was one of the reasons why I created my journals, because I wanted to give prompts to people and to children to really look, what are you grateful for? In those moments that you are blessed, stay with them,
right.
savor them, enjoy them, pause. Don't just discard them like, yeah, I'll have another one tomorrow, because you don't know. You really don't.
Well, the thing that's interesting, and this is why, again, I like having people of all different kinds of like when I tell people, hey, come on as a guest on my podcast, a lot of times they're like, oh, but I don't work in money, right? Like that's the excuse I get all the time is, well, I don't do something professionally in money. And I'm like, okay, like who cares? Because it intersects. Because I mean, this conversation that you and I are having right now, think about muscles, right? Like think about the mechanics of like if you don't, I mean anybody who's in the fitness world will tell you if you are lazy, if you're not using your muscles, what's going to happen, right? They're going to deteriorate. They're not, going to perform correctly or whatever. And so we understand as a society, okay, in order to keep physical tone, in order to keep, yourself in good shape, you have to
Mhm.
exercise it. Well, guess what? It's no
Right.
different than anything else in your life. We just don't see it that way. And so we've gotten ourselves out of this idea that interactions, the learning experience, right? And looking for gratitude and all of these different things. They're just muscles that we have to work. And it doesn't matter how old you get, you're never gonna grow out of it. Okay. Like when you're 90 something years old, guess what? Something is gonna be changing, something is gonna be moving. Yes, you're gonna have a lot more perspective and a lot more information and a lot more data, obviously, right? But it doesn't mean that you're ever going to stop learning. And in fact, they actually have done studies, and a lot of people, why the decline significantly once they retire, if they don't stay active, if they don't start doing, they don't join groups or do, volunteer work or whatever it is, right? If they're not staying active, then
Mm-hmm.
they basically fall off and decline and pass away because again, your body has never been intended to stop motion
Right.
of any kind.
You gotta have a purpose, and your purpose is gonna change from when you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, whatever age you are. But if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have something to look forward to,
Mhm.
you are gonna start like a flower, dying within yourself. Not even, I mean, physically too, but your mind is going to send a message to your body that there is nothing to look forward to, that you're done. And when your brain makes that decision, there is no doctor that can help you.
Absolutely. Well, and I think this is where, and I'll try this last thing in and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But this is where I think doom scroll and the way that we consume information is so important and powerful. And we need to be incredibly careful because it is highly addictive to push that really easy dopamine button of the doom scroll, of the, whatever. But remind yourself that so often with that, two things are happening. Number one, you are not exercising that brain. Maybe you are when you're scrolling social media, but most people aren't, right? They are simply entertaining themselves, right? They want those easy hits of dopamine coming in and flowing in or whatever, right? But oftentimes what ends up happening is exactly the opposite. It pulls you out of a place of gratitude and into a place of comparison of, well, Claudia has a nicer house than me, or so and so went on the vacation I wanted to go on, and that's it's not fair or whatever. And it's just super unnecessary, right? And so I love social media. I'm on it frequently. I post it. I utilize it for my business. I utilize it for relationships. I have created and fostered amazing friendships through social media. So I am super not anti it, but I am also pro awareness of you laser focusing in on how you are going to live the intentional life you want to live, because the buck stops with you on that, right? Like there is no outsourcing power, there is no blaming anybody else, right? There is no, well, I should have, like, you can literally start today, whatever the decision is, right? You can move forward. You can find success, abundance, whatever it is you desire. And you are powerful enough to create that. I believe that to my core, no matter what your intelligence level is, no matter what your education level is, no matter what station you're in right now, it doesn't matter. Like none of that, it is irrelevant. You have the ability
Right.
to create your own destiny and become like literally financial mastery simplified. You can achieve that, but only if you just decide to do it. And it's literally just that easy. It's just a decision.
But it is because it's not a lack of skills. Driving your decisions and going after what you want. I know so many people, Jax, that go after one training and another training and another training. And when are you going to jump in the pool? And if you don't know something halfway, then go and figure it out. But don't wait until you have that perfect, because that perfect is never going to happen. There's always something new. So
Absolutely.
what are you willing to, like, I said it the other day online, in a post. I'm like, when you say I'm gonna start Monday, you're not saying that you're gonna start Monday. What you're saying is that you're gonna have a shitty life until Monday. That's what you're saying. Okay, so make a decision. Don't wait until Monday to start. Just make a decision. How much longer you're gonna have your shitty life?
Yeah. I mean, you're totally not wrong. And it's funny, I will throw myself under the bus. I am a massive perfectionist. And like what I've learned is that yeah, there's a difference between like getting yourself to a level where you feel comfortable, to push the button, but sometimes you're gonna have to step into the uncomfortable because I tell the story about how I created my podcast. I wasn't ready. And the guy who helped me launch it or whatever, he was like, yeah, I don't really care. He's like, we're starting your podcast next week. And this is the only two things you need. And you're going to be fine. And I was like, no, I was like, I do not know what I'm doing. I do not have enough information. I have not prepped enough. I have not. And I had all the excuses in the world. But sometimes you just have to lean in. And I have accomplished more probably in the last 2 years in the worst financial situation I've ever been. I mean, last year in mortgage, y'all, 2025, it was the worst year mortgage has ever seen since the 80s, and almost doubly as worse as that year in the 80s, to give you some perspective. So we're talking about financially not good in any kind of capacity. And yet here I am. I'm still standing. I'm still, pouring into others. I'm still launching things business wise, and you know what I mean? And so, like, you don't have any excuses, right? With everything that has happened to me or whatever, I am the poster child for you to pardon my French, but fuck your excuses, okay? We're just gonna say that. Sorry.
100%. And the same goes with your vision board that maybe you did like 10 years ago and now you're living that life. The same goes opposite. I mean, it's entirely up to you. You thought you couldn't overcome that situation because in that moment you felt the water was up your neck, and then that's it. I'm a failure. I'm never going to get out of this hole. And then you fast forward 10 years later and look where you are right now. So you were able to overcome that. You're good. You're living that life the one time you dream about. Good for you. So there's so many possibilities. You just need to make the choice, make the decision, and move forward.
Agreed. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, but you and I probably could stay talking here for about the next 14 days and maybe never take a breath between the two of us. So at this point in time, I will just say I know that you do have something that you'd like to offer our listeners. So tell us a little bit more about that and we will wrap us up.
Okay, I have a free workbook. It's called Overcoming Challenges and Embracing Abundance. And I'm going to send you the link so they can click on it and they can get it. I think it's very important to fix a problem. You got to acknowledge there is a problem. And maybe this is going to give your audience a little light at the end of the tunnel to see where they're lacking, where they're stuck, and how to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And thank you so much for being a part of my podcast today. I have so appreciated the conversation. It's so much fun always to speak with you. And for those of you, who are feeling stuck, just realize that you just have to take the first aligned intentional step, right? I mean, just listening to this podcast, okay, so now you're feeling all the things. So download, Claudia's thing or whatever. Or if you feel like you're wanting to take a huge step, check out, Financial Instincts Framework, some of the other things that are offered by either Claudia or myself. Like, you have the opportunity to choose whatever you feel like is going to move you the furthest, right? Take those steps, but you have to actually take the step, right? You just sitting there convincing yourself, well, yeah, like you said, I'll handle it in a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 years, whatever it is. I mean, the truth is it's not going to change until you spark it to change, right? And so again, thank you so much. Hopefully this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified was helpful for you, and we will see you again next week on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.